Our rules are simple, but the challenge is great. No shoulder pets, tames that can be carried, or typical boss dinos allowed. That means no Rexes, Therazinos, or any other dinos people normally use in these fights. Equipped with official server cap saddles, our 19 contenders will be backed by the commanding presence of a loyal Uteranus, providing that extra boost. All competitors will go into battle with food to provide a healing effect. Herbivores will have plenty of sweet veggie cakes, and carnivores and omnivores will have cooked meat. I won't be using the Overseer because the movement speed required to get through the tech cave and then chase the Overseer during the fight would shorten our list by a lot. It's important to note that the tames in this series aren't typically used during boss battles because the amount of mutations you need to make them competitive, but all the dinos competing will have around 23,000 health and 1200% melee. This will give them all a fair shot at defeating at least one of the guardians. It won't always be feasible to reach these stats depending on the dinos I'm using, but I will let you know the amount of mutations and levels it took in order to reach it. All competitors start out with 50 base health and melee, and 40 points in everything else before I apply mutations and experience levels. You can decide on your own servers if it's worth pursuing. Competitors are required to fight the Megapithecus, Broodmother, then the Dragon on all difficulties starting with Gamma, then Beta, finishing with Alpha. Their success will be annotated on this scorecard with a pass or fail system. Now let's introduce our competitor and see if they have what it takes. The Baryonyx. This swamp and river terror needs no introduction. Long hailed as the best cave mount, it's likely that if you've played Ark, you've tamed and bred your fair share of them. Here are Mr. Barry's stats. I needed 50 mutations and 45 experience levels to reach these. 25 mutations and 20 experience levels went into health, and 25 mutations and 25 experience levels went into melee. A member of the community blessed me with my first super thanks. To show my appreciation, I asked them to name the berries for this video. I decided to just name one to see if it would survive until the end, and I added some war paint. Good luck, Zeki. Now let's see if this fish-eating monster has what it takes. With the green portal activated, the Berry Brigade prepares to enter the easiest boss fight of the evening, the Gamma Megapithecus. Add the Baryonyx to the list of creatures that the bosses ignore. I was in for a long night of keep away. And keep away I did. The berries are fast enough to lay it on thick while I remained unharmed and scored our first pass. Next up, we have the Gamma Broodmother. I knew this fight would get a bit tricky in the later stages because it's impossible to play keep away with this spicy seductress. The team moves in quick, and it's real difficult to reposition the berries while I'm ensnared by webs. By this stage, I had concerns over their damage output to accompany the inevitable time when I'd have to abandon the UD mid-fight. That was guaranteed to happen in the alpha stage, but that's a problem for future me because that's pass number 2 for the berries. And now for the ultimate test. Could the berries fit up under the Gamma Dragon's gooch and go to town on his underside? Short answer, yes. Long answer, yes they can. The one saving grace that gave me confidence over their lack of damage. I knew that as long as they could stay alive long enough, eventually they'd be able to take down the dragon. All I had to do was minimize the damage they took by hiding under the dragon's ass. Something I did notice was not all of the berries would attack while in position, but ultimately it didn't matter in this fight, and they took down the Gamma Dragon with little effort, earning their third pass. I activated the blue portal, which meant it was time for the beta boss fights. First up, we're off to the snowy lands of the Beta Megapithecus. I pretty much gave up on running away during this fight because I was pinned between the rock face and some of the berries. That's okay, because tanking this big baby's shots is a piece of cake. The Beta Megapithecus was able to get my UD down to about 50% health before he was overcome from the onslaught of Baryonyx teeth. The Great Ape just couldn't handle it, and the Berry Boys get their fourth pass of the day. Right out of the gates with the Beta Broodmother, I accidentally sent the berries too far and left the free lane of attack for her to lay into me. Somehow I got away and I was able to position the berries in a way where she was stuck running in place. Look how determined she is to get a piece of this. I was able to keep this positioning up for quite some time, and she was even below 50% health before she finally broke free. And when she did, she was pissed. She was spitting all this green shit at me, and she came at me hard. At this point, the UD was actually taking some significant damage, but it wasn't enough. The Beta Broodmother was already down to a sliver of health, and there was no hope in sight for her. And Team Berry pulled off another victory. Up next, we have the Beta Dragon. It started off hot and heavy. The berries were able to get in a solid position. They were dealing a ton of damage, and just as I predicted, I had to abandon the Uteranus, and I made a successful transfer to one of the underberries. Shortly after making the switch, I had to watch as Commander Utes burned to death, and unfortunately, he wouldn't be the last death of this fight. You see, the strategy of crowding around the ankles of the dragon works pretty well, but every time the dragon takes off and lands, you're highly likely to take a shot of fire breath when you re-engage. The more times the dragon takes off, the lower your chances of victory. As you can see here, the berries are pretty banged up, but the beta dragon still has a good chunk of health left. We were able to finally engage the dragon for the last time. In total, the beta dragon took off 3 times during this fight, and I was still losing numbers one after the other. At this point, we were down 1 Yudi, and our 10th berry would die. Zeki, the fallen hero. They would be avenged, and the remaining berries gave it everything they had left in the tank and put the beta dragon into the dirt, earning a hard-fought pass. Red portal time equals alpha time, and we started off with the Alpha Megapithecus. Once again, I find myself in a precarious situation, stuck between a giant monkey and a wall with my face covered in shit. After a bit of repositioning, I'm able to get free, but not before taking some significant damage. It eventually turned into a game of chase the Yudi, and I tried time and time again to block the Alpha Megapithecus' path with some berries. I couldn't keep him away, so I decided to finish it up by tanking the rest of the shots, and the berry boys were able to put the monkey down, earning their 7th pass in a row. Heading into the Alpha Broodmother arena, I knew that at some point in this fight I would have to transfer to one of the Baryonyx. The Spider Queen just hits too damn hard. That time would come sooner rather than later, and she barely had 1/10 of her health gone before it was time for me to abandon ship. I got a bit nervous here because movement's pretty restricted due to her spider webs, and I didn't want to get bit, so I let out one last courage roar, repositioned, and went for it, and got bit. Luckily it didn't one-shot me, but my heart broke watching Commander Utes getting eaten alive. This fight was not going great. I knew that if I died, the fight would end no matter how many berries were left, so I kept trying to stay away from her fangs. The Alpha Broodmother was down to about 1/4 of her health, and the Baryonyx started dropping left and right. Eventually, it was just me and a couple other berries left before she ripped me from the saddle and crushed my skull into the dirt, handing us our first fail. The Alpha Dragon, the ultimate test. With the way that the Beta Dragon fight went, it was safe to say that I didn't think we stood a chance here. But we had him under 50% health before he took off for the first time. I fought the dragon a lot now, and I'll tell you that there's no rhyme or reason as to how often he takes off. It's completely random, but the longer he stays down, the better. In the case of this fight, we were on the good side of the god that determines how often this guy takes off. Uranus is usually too large to get completely out of the range of his shots, but sometimes it's possible to avoid the fire attacks. With Commander Utes and the Alpha Dragon's health neck and neck for a race to be empty, I wasn't nervous at all, because I knew we had a large amount of Baryonyx remaining that turned the lights out for the Alpha Dragon, earning a pass. This series has become more popular than I could have ever imagined when I started my journey, and I thank all of you for being a part of it. If you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to help this community grow. We have many more creatures to explore this with, and you can check out the community tab for a list of the plan. Please feel free to comment below if there's one you'd like to see or if you have any feedback. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.